Okay, so I'm going to show you how to make some little flesh trophies, not entirely unlike this one, for your executioners or really any kind of force that you want. There, maybe you can see a little better there. It's pretty simple. All you need is one model. You're going to need some kind of sculpting tool. I prefer to use these stainless steel ones that I have. You can see they've definitely, this one has gone through the ringer a few times. You can use your hobby knife. You can also use your clippers. Clippers are actually something else you're going to want to use. But I prefer to use these because you're going to want to keep them wet while you're working with the green stuff. And, you don't want your knife to rust or anything, or you don't want the tip of it, if it's a new blade, to score your model too much. It's a little easier to work with these. I find a lot of them have other sides to them. And then naturally you're going to need some green stuff. It's best to do this when you have, I don't know, I can't size how much green stuff I need for the life of me, so I always end up with way more than I actually need. So if you've got a handful of Marines that you want to try this on at once, this is actually half the size of what I started with, because I made this one over here just to kind of remind myself how to do it. So it's best to have a couple of them that you can practice with, or do all at once. That way you don't end up throwing green stuff away. So the first thing you want to do is get it wet. So make it a little easier to use. You always want your tools to be wet. If you don't, the green stuff will stick to them, and it will be kind of hard and a pain in the ass to deal with. So what I like to do is I like to flatten it out, and I like to cut, a little kind of triangle shape, or at least some form of triangular shape. You can put these anywhere you want on your Marine, but I find that it is easiest to do between the legs, a sort of loincloth or tabard look to it. So again, keep your tool wet, at least early on. And you take the model, and you take a little bit of green stuff, and you just kind of stick it on there. Now from there, you're going to wet your tool again. See where you want to sculpt. I know, given your brain, Jared, you're probably giggling at tool over and over and over again. But it is what you want. So kind of work it into the crevice between the torso and the legs if you can. This will give it kind of a ragged look. Now don't be too afraid of making it look kind of clumsy and gross. In this case, these are flesh trophies, so that is kind of the point. And as they say, paint covers a multitude of sins, and I'll show you how to paint these later in a scheme that I like. Makes it look kind of gross and leathery, or fresh and new, or tanned. There's a couple of different ways you can do it. But there you go, just kind of work it into the waist around there, and now you want this whole blob here to be a little flatter and more angled. So what I like to do is, I don't have any, I used to have some more precision things for this, but I don't anymore. So I'm going to use pliers. You get them wet again, boop, and anchor one end with your finger. Don't worry about putting fingerprints in the green stuff, because you're just gonna kind of remold it anyway. But anchor one end with your finger so you don't pull it completely off the model, and very gently grab it with your pliers and give it a little bit of a pull, as gently as you can. This will give it kind of a stretched out look. See, it came off, but that's okay. It doesn't matter too much if it comes off. You can always just kind of put it back in place. This one, I might not have used enough green stuff for this. If you do touch the green stuff, keep your fingers wet too. You don't want it to stick to you. As you can see, it's actually getting a little too wet because now it's not sticking to the model. So when that happens, just kind of try and mold it back in there as best you can. Come on now. And now you can see after you've tugged on it, you've got kind of a more loinclothy shape to it. If you flip it over, you can see it's still actually fairly thick. So don't mess with it too much while it's curing. Kind of get it to a place where you want on the marine and then leave it there. If you mess with it too much, like I'm about to do, you might pull it off, or, yep, see, there it goes. Or kind of ruin the shape that you end up happy with. If you do find that it's going too far between the legs, like I don't really like it where it is there between the knees, you can flip it around and just kind of poke it a little bit with whatever tool you're using, and that kind of gets it back out where you want it to be. Now again, these kind of look a little clumsy, and I haven't done these in a long time, so I used to be able to make them look a little better than this, but don't feel afraid. What you're gonna want at the end of the day is that texture in there, because that's what's gonna hold your wash once you wash this. You're gonna use a pretty heavy wash, and what's gonna happen is it's all gonna kind of flow there in the recesses like wash does, you know. And what it's gonna look like is kind of old blood. It's a combination of not Nuln Oil, Coriba Crimson, Reikland Flesh Shade, and Earth Shade. Although you can really throw in whatever you want on there. And that's just for painting human flesh. Obviously, if you want to make it some sort of Xenos skin, Gene Stealer or whatever, you could do that. Don't ask me why executioners are wearing skin trophies, because they're totally loyal, guys. Yeah, they were just on the wrong side in the Badab War. So there you go. That's kind of where I like to keep it. You can always add more green stuff onto it later to try and bulk it out some, but that ought to do you for now. The whole process, marine to marine, takes maybe a minute or two once you've kind of got your technique down and you know how you like to handle it. But that's all I got for you. Be sure to, like and subscribe and all that. Yeah, cool.